Now, the Prime Minister has launched a fresh crackdown, yet another crackdown on retail crime, with plans for 6 months in jail for anyone convicted of assaulting a shop worker.
We're still joined, of course, by the glorious and wonderful Isabel Oakeshott. Well, there you go. If you beat someone up, you might go to prison. Who would have thunk?
I'm sorry, I just don't believe it. When I hear the words, the Prime Minister has launched a fresh crackdown, I'm gone, I'm out, that's it.
What's this crackdown on, Rishi?
Look, this isn't going to happen, is it? We know that the court system is in complete shambles. And it's just not going to go anywhere, excuse me?
Yeah, I mean, what's going on here is even if someone does beat up a shop worker, they're not going to have their day in court for about 3 years. When they do, some sort of liberal judge will probably say, well, you know, you've only beaten up 25 people this year, perhaps you just need to go and have some time out, you've probably got a mental health issue. And even if they did get sentenced to some time in prison, there's no cell to put them in anyway. So, I mean, it is, like Isabel said, it is one of those situations where you think the Prime Minister announces something normally that you think should already exist.
You know, the police have basically given up on shoplifting, so it's down to the shops. The shops say, "Oh, the police don't do anything." I'm afraid that certainly the bigger stores, they've got to start hiring more and more security guards.
But they can't do anything either.
These supermarkets make massive profits, and you know they park one bloke. It almost always is a bloke who's just like flimsily standing at the door, not looking at all intimidating, and then people run out back and forth, and that bloke, I mean, what was he supposed to do, run out after them? I mean, you'd like to think that would be what would happen, but you need to bolster that quite considerably. And as for the threshold of £200, I mean, I think people should be pursued for shoplifting for a fiver. I don't think it should be a quantum thing. Yeah. It is a principle thing.
Well, yeah, it's basically saying if it's under 200 quid, it's not stealing. Help yourself
so
if you don't prosecute.
So people go and they steal £195 worth of goods.
It's ridiculous.
By the way, I think that, I mean, I know this is a minor factor, but I'm sure it is a factor, that this surge in shoplifting has coincided with all the shops' new habits of getting rid of all the cashiers.
Oh, I agree with that.
So there's nothing, there's no one or nothing to stop you walking straight out.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm actually surprised that the scale of fraud linked to that isn't much greater, but frankly, I think that the supermarkets deserve it. I hate those self-checkout. I hate the fact you don't have a choice, you know, that you are forced into these tills. And the latest insult is that they actually put up barriers. So even after you've done everything yourself and had multiple occasions of unexpected items and having to call someone who takes ages to come back and forth, you then try to get out with your hard-won purchases. And there's a blinking barrier and you've got to put your receipt in before it decides to let you go.
It's ridiculous. Let's talk about drugs.
I think we might need some.
Exactly.
Well, I don't want this one. This is the flesh-eating zombie drug, which has now been linked to 11 deaths in the UK. It started off in Russia. I'll try and pronounce it. It's called xylazine. And when you take it, you inject it, it causes your body to rot. So therefore, it is a flesh-eating zombie drug. And by the way, the England fans who are off to Germany for the Euro tournament in the summer have all been advised to book into these hotels, which are down Berlin's biggest zombie drug addict alley. So they're worried about that. But this is quite worrying, isn't it, this drug?
Well, look, folks, just don't take it. I mean, I don't think it is that worrying. You're not going to be at any risk unless you actually take it. I don't know why anyone would be having this stuff.
I mean, apparently this is a drug strong enough to tranquilise an elephant, and now it's moving in the illicit drugs market. But when you look at some of the scenes, I mean, I think in Russia it was called Crocodile or something.
That's right.
And it sort of burst onto the sort of the darker sides of social media about 10 years ago. You had videos of people with exposed bones and bits of flesh just actually hanging off their rotting skeletals. But then you've got all of these pictures, don't you, in America of the fentanyl crisis. And it's just mad.
Yeah, this is enormous. I mean, look, we already see bits of this on our own streets. I was outside Vauxhall Tube Station a few days ago with my kids and was horrified at the number of spaced out, rotting flesh people that were sitting on the street. I mean, there was one guy, he literally looked like he couldn't see anything, and he had his leg in a bandage of some suppurating wound under it. I thought, where am I? What is this?
Yeah.
You know, the streets of Calcutta.
Yeah, no, it has. I mean, certainly where I live, it's the same thing. There's a sort of a drugs treatment clinic halfway down the street, and so they're all there at a certain time of day walking around like the living dead. But there's a darker side to this story, in fact, where certainly in America...
well, as opposed to the lighter side of it. The lighter side of flesh-eating zombie drugs, yeah.
Yeah, forget the necrosis part.
Yeah.
No, I mean, actually, there are interesting connections with where some of these drugs are being manufactured and who's bringing them into countries and who's trying to proliferate them within the illicit marketplaces, and certainly with strong connections to hostile states. I mean, traditionally, of course, things like heroin propped up the Taliban. I think some of these more sort of impressively horrible pharmaceutical products are coming from our friends in the Far East.
And the problem with xylazine is this. No doubt, I'll guarantee, I don't know how much it costs on the street, but I'll guarantee you it's cheap. Yeah. Therefore, it probably will become...
When you say our friends in the Far East, do you mean China?
I do mean China.
OK, let's just say it as it is, shall we?
China.
The next big drug crisis coming to this country, just as it is in America, is fentanyl, where I think over the last year, 100,000 Americans
The scale
died.
of this is
It's
extraordinary.
But we've left the door open, actually, because we've stopped prosecuting or actually sort of having any sort of prohibition against illegal drugs. You walk down the street in London and every sort of fifth person's just smoking weed on the street.
Yeah. By the way, it's not just us. I was in a ski resort not that long ago, and there was a guy at the top of the mountain just puffing away on a joint. Top
and
of
then
a
skiing
mountain.
down it.
Yeah, don't fancy skiing down with
What
him.
could possibly go wrong?
Now, let's move on. This is
for you.
This is apparently for me, yes. Dealing with an irritating boss. My boss is not irritating, if you're watching, Denny. Magnificent man. Anyway, if you are dealing with an irritating boss by writing, and you get furious and you want to go, yes, but you could risk your job there. So you have to hold your temper. Apparently, what you do is you write down exactly what you think about him. So here I'm doing it now. You write that,
and then you don't leave it on the desk.
And then what does it say? It says that what you then do, you've got all your emotions written down there. Go like this.
Pop it in the bin.
And then you throw them in the bin.
Hey!
And then all your fury is gone.
So
doesn't work.
Isn't that like what they say about don't send angry emails? Like draft it and then just don't press send. But I've never really thought that 100% worked.
I always think what people write on their paper is quite interesting. When I do my notes, I just have like little notes to self and a few arrows. Kev's always got massive crosses and angry squiggles, and he goes like this to make his point.
I am still furious, so that doesn't work.